I'm in an overwhelming mess, and I don't know where to begin. I'm new to sharing on platforms like this, so bear with me as I try to explain my situation. I've made some terrible decisions, and I'm not sure how to fix the chaos I've caused. I've been married to my husband for 6 years, and we've been together for 8. We share a beautiful 4-year-old son and have had a happy life together until recently. About 6 months ago, I reconnected with an old flame from college. It started innocently when he reached out to me, but it quickly spiraled into an affair that lasted 4 months. I didn't plan for this to happen. At first, it felt like catching up with an old friend, but things escalated, and I made choices I deeply regret. We met at his home, hotels, and even my house when my husband wasn't around. He's married with 3 kids, which adds another layer of guilt to this mess. I felt awful about how distant I became with my husband during this time. My husband is perceptive and quickly noticed something was off. One night, he confronted me, asking directly if I was cheating. I denied it, though I could see the hurt in his eyes. He told me he didn't have proof, but warned me that if he ever found out I lied, it would be over. That shook me to my core. I ended the affair immediately despite my AP's reluctance. Determined to save my marriage, I threw myself into being a better wife and mother. I worked on rebuilding the intimacy with my husband, helping around the house more, and being there for our child. It wasn't easy. He was cold and distant at first, but eventually things returned to normal. I felt like I dodged a bullet. Then my AP reached out again. He messaged me on Facebook, saying he needed to see me one last time. I should have ignored him, but foolishly, I agreed. We met at a hotel 2 hours away. I told myself this was closure, but deep down I knew it was another mistake. After we were done, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my husband. It read, "I know where you are and who you're with." My heart dropped. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. How could he know? My stomach churned with dread. I didn't know what to do or how to respond. I feel trapped in a situation I created. My husband warned me once, and now I've betrayed him again. I've shattered the trust in our marriage, and I don't know if there's any way to fix this. My mind is racing with questions. Does he know everything? What will he do next? Most of all, how do I even begin to address the damage I've caused? I stared at the message on my phone, my heart sinking deeper into despair. It read, "And what you're doing, we are done. Don't bother coming back home. I've transferred half of our savings into your checking account. Have a good life." It felt like my entire world had shattered in that instant. I tried calling him, texting him, begging for a response, but every attempt was met with silence. He had blocked me on everything. When he finally unblocked my number, it wasn't for me. It was only to arrange matters related to our son. Every other communication would go through his lawyer. His coldness was suffocating, and I felt a deep, gnawing emptiness inside me. I didn't sleep that night, plagued by the weight of what I had done and the reality of losing him. The next day I returned home, hoping for some kind of conversation, some chance to make things right. But the house was empty. He wasn't there, and neither was our son. The absence of their presence made the space feel hollow, and I could barely stand being there. When I texted him, he only replied with details about our son. He said we'd be taking turns, 1 week each, with no room for discussion. His words were curt and emotionless, piercing through me like daggers. I couldn't reach out to his family. They had all blocked me. My own family, though they didn't block me, made their disappointment clear. The only person who stood by me was my best friend, and even she struggled to understand how I had let things fall apart. I felt completely isolated, living in the wreckage I had created. The first week without my son was unbearable. The silence in the house was deafening, and the absence of my husband's warmth was like a constant ache in my chest. When the week ended, his brother dropped off my son at the door. No words, no explanations, just a quiet exchange, as if I no longer existed to them. I was desperate. I needed to talk to my husband, to explain myself, to apologize, but he refused to engage. His coldness was like a wall I couldn't break through. I know I made mistakes, but how could someone who once loved me so deeply be so indifferent now? Didn't we owe each other a chance to talk, to find some form of closure? Then today, the divorce papers came. I couldn't believe it. He was really going through with this without a single conversation. I hadn't even hired a lawyer or read the documents yet. I was too overwhelmed. Out of anger and desperation, I texted him telling him I'd contest the divorce, even if it drained us financially. It wasn't true. I just wanted him to react, to acknowledge me, even if it meant yelling at me. I'm lost. I can't function. Should I call the police since he changed the locks and I don't know where he is? I don't want to fight. I just want a chance to fix this. I love him. We all make mistakes, don't we? Please, what do I do now? I've spent every waking moment over the last 3 weeks trying to figure out where it all went wrong. What led me to make decisions that destroyed the life we built together? I understand now how deeply I've hurt my husband, but that understanding doesn't make the pain any easier to bear. I just want the chance to make things right for him, for our son, for the family we were supposed to be. The worst part is knowing that I didn't even love AP. I wasn't in love with him in college, and I wasn't in love with him now. My relationship with AP was shallow, nothing like what I shared with my husband. My husband is the first man I've ever truly loved. He's my best friend, my partner, and the father of my child. How did I let that slip away? I've been asking myself this question every day, and I still don't have an answer. The connection I had with my husband was special. He wasn't just my partner. He was my safe place. Our intimacy, both emotional and physical, was unlike anything I'd experienced before. And now I've lost it all because of my thoughtless choices. The reality of losing him forever is crushing. It feels like my world is collapsing, and no one can understand how this feels. I can't imagine a life without him in it. I've tried to give him space, to stop being so pushy, but it feels like every step I take only brings me closer to losing him for good. He's moving forward with the divorce, even talking about selling the house. He offered 50-50 custody of our son, which should feel fair, but it only adds to my guilt. It feels like he's being generous, not because he wants to, but to remind me of how much I've hurt him. I don't blame him for any of this. I know I deserve it, but knowing how much pain I've caused him breaks my heart. And the worst part is, I can't do anything to fix it. I see the comments people leave, and they're right. He's made it clear what he wants. He doesn't want to talk, doesn't want to hear my apologies. He just wants me to leave him alone and move on with the divorce. I've thought about fighting the divorce, dragging it out, but I know deep down that it won't change anything. I can't undo what's been done. He doesn't trust me, and I don't blame him. Maybe this is his way of protecting himself, of not giving me another chance to hurt him. I wish he could see how much I regret everything, how much I still love him, but I know I've dug my grave. He gave me a chance after the first time, and I failed him again. I proved to him that I couldn't be trusted, and now I'm paying the price. Men have feelings too, and I ignored his. I've learned that the hard way, and now I have to face the consequences of my actions. I just wish it didn't hurt this much. Story 2. I've been holding on to this for so long, and it's eating away at me every day. I don't know if sharing this here will help, but I need some perspective because I can't seem to escape the guilt. My boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years, and despite the challenges of a long-distance relationship, we've made it work. We see each other once every week or two, and I'm incredibly happy with him. I truly believe he's the one for me, someone I can see myself marrying and building a life with. I think he feels the same, which makes this even harder to confess. About a year ago, we hit a rough patch. We were on the verge of breaking up, but somehow we managed to pull through. Around that time, I got back in touch with my ex. My boyfriend knew about it and wasn't thrilled, but he trusted me enough to let it slide. At first, it felt innocent, just two people reconnecting. But as we started talking more, texting, and even meeting up occasionally, things shifted. Nothing physical ever happened, but I could feel myself developing feelings for my ex again. One day I admitted to him that I liked him as more than a friend. The moment the words left my mouth, it was like a switch flipped. Alarms went off in my head, and I knew this wasn't right. I immediately stopped seeing him, but we stayed in touch as friends, though the emotional attachment lingered. Months later, I finally cut ties completely. I ignored every message he sent and shut that door for good. Since then, I've thrown myself completely into my relationship. My boyfriend has no idea about the emotional connection I had with my ex or how close we were during that time. A part of me thinks he deserves to know, but another part wonders if sharing this would only hurt him and damage what we've worked so hard to rebuild. I spoke to a counselor about it, and she told me that telling him would only serve to relieve my guilt, not benefit the relationship. She said it would be selfish of me to unburden myself at the expense of his trust and peace of mind. I understand her point, but the guilt is suffocating. I feel ashamed that I let myself get to that point, even if nothing physical happened. I hate that I let my loneliness take control and allowed myself to seek comfort in someone who should have stayed in my past. I love my boyfriend more than anything. He means the world to me, and the thought of losing him because of my mistake terrifies me. But sometimes I wonder, if he knew the full story, would he still want to be with me? That question haunts me, and I don't know if I'll ever have the courage to find out. For now, I've stayed silent. I've tried to forgive myself and move forward, but it's easier said than done. Should I tell him the truth, or should I let this stay buried, knowing it could only cause unnecessary pain? I feel lost and would appreciate any advice.